Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Mama Project podcast. Today, I have Ashton Koehlmoos here. She is a fellow P and PA coach who has a very unique story that I think will resonate with a lot of you in terms of becoming a P and PA coach, starting her business, her experience with loss, and how that's really transformed her life and her business. So, Ashton, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Christine. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so give us a little bio, a little bit about you before you found PMPA and before you had your babies. What were you doing?
I was an athlete. I knew at a very young age that I wanted to be a trainer, wanted to be in the fitness field. I just loved everything about it. So went to college and I started training the first year that I was in college, got my degree in exercise science. And then I got my first job doing the personal training, doing the group X. I spent about 2 years or so doing that part-time before I worked my way into a full-time position at the Nishna Valley Family YMCA. I got to give them a shout out. They are in Atlantic, Iowa, and I just fell in love with working there, working with just fitness across the lifespan. I think I was very naive in college, thinking I was just going to work with athletes. And then when I started working at the Y, I was like, nope, just fitness through the lifespan is where it's at. Like everybody is an athlete from 5 years old to 99 years old. So worked there as the fitness director and youth sport director, doing group X, all the things fitness, and spent 7 years of my launching my career there. I also went on to get my master's degree. I always said like, oh, I want to own a gym someday. That's just kind of like in the future of what I wanted to do. So while we were down doing our thing, my husband and I, we got married really young, and we wanted to wait 2 years before we started having kids. And in that trying process, we discovered that I had infertility issues that we already kind of knew about. I was experiencing a lot of pain with my periods, and we knew there was probably some endometriosis. But what we did not know is that my husband also had sperm count issues, and did not come up until we got him tested. So we navigated the trying to conceive for 4 years, um, and just really kept that to ourselves throughout that whole process. I think a lot of people, when they initially find out there's something wrong with them, like infertility, that they really kind of keep them to themselves. I shared with, my close friends, my boss, because I was going to all these appointments, and a couple of close coworkers because they'd have to cover my classes. But really just like internally kept that for 4 years. And then ultimately we ended up doing IVF just because my husband's numbers would never support natural conception. So we just had this calling for biological children. So we did one round of IVF, and we got pregnant with our first, who is Oliver. And that was 4.5 years ago. Well, I mean, 5.5 years ago now, I got pregnant. He's 4.5 now. So when we, got pregnant, that's when we shared about our infertility. And I, just continued to do what I always did. That's what my doctor said. I was following the guidance of my doctors. I wanted to have a fit pregnancy, and man, I just loved going to the gym and everyone just like, oh my gosh, look at you, you're looking great. I just cannot believe you're doing all these things. Like, you are just my inspiration. I think we can all kind of relate to that as PPA coaches. That kind of is what leads us to the certification down the road. So did all the things and, gave birth to him. It was a very long labor, and, postpartum. I said they so told me I could walk, and I can literally remember the first week I was like walking 3 miles a day. Like, well, this is what I can do, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk, and we would just walk and walk and walk. And yeah, wasn't smart. Don't do that. And then when I was cleared at 6 weeks, I just jumped right back into everything. And yeah, it wasn't until 6 months postpartum that I was dealing with such debilitating back pain that my breaking point was I couldn't get off the toilet to tend to my 6 month old. I was also experiencing leaking that pops up during my pregnancy, but everyone at the gym told me that this is a part of motherhood. So I just really didn't think anything of it. I'm like, okay, this is just normal now. This is my new normal. And so pain with intercourse were kind of my big three. And I went and saw a PT and started working on my core, and then just dove headfirst into all things core and pelvic floor health and just really fell in love with it. I just kept saying, how do I not know this? How do I not know this? Like, I'm a trainer, I should know these things. And landed on Brianna's course when looking for some CEUs. and started my certification in like December or January, somewhere right there around the first of year 2021. Finished my course in February of 2021, but also found out we were pregnant. We got pregnant again in November of 2020. So we were thrilled. We thought that like our infertility days were behind us. Like, we just
Did you
we
get
just
you
had
got pregnant naturally that second time?
no, so transfer. So we did
Oh, we got okay.
so a frozen transfer. So
Okay.
that was successful, and it was just like a big breath of fresh air. Like we thought, okay, like our darkest days are behind us. Like obviously, it was just a conception. Like it was just, my husband's sperm count, was preventing us from becoming pregnant after we
Real,
went through.
real quick before you get
Yeah.
into your second pregnancy and everything, what did, because I know a lot of first time moms, like, like I like feel you because I'm the fitness person too.
Mhm.
What did work look like for you then? Like after that first, like, did you go back to the gym? Like, what did all that
Yeah.
look like?
So we were in a transition of moving our family back up. So we were in Southwest Iowa is where we were, and we were in a transition period of moving up to Northwest Iowa. My husband had already made the move up and had started his new job. And just knowing my body throughout all the trying to conceive the 4 years, I really just told my husband, I said, I can't go into IVF with a new boss, with a new environment, with a new everything, because every time I had a really stressful time period at work, I wouldn't ovulate. Like my hormones weren't right. So I knew that stress really affected my fertility. And I just said, I need to be in an environment. If I'm going to bring a human into the world, I need to be in an environment where I feel safe, where I feel supported. I don't want to have to share with a new boss all of my past. Like my boss he was just amazing. So we were kind of in the transition period. So I said we were going to leave after Oliver was born. So we left and I stopped my job in January. So after he was born, I only took 6 weeks off. They had a new fitness director hired, and I just kind of wanted to see, do I like going back to work? Do I not like going back to work? I knew I had to train this person. She was an employee before. She's a part-time employee and was being promoted up. So um, yeah, so I went back. I really didn't teach much classes. I'm actually surprised I didn't do that. But pretty much at 6 weeks, I just went on with my life like normal. That's what my doctor told me. I was cleared. So I started lifting weights again. I remember my first workout, I was jumping. I was doing squat jumps, my very first postpartum at 6 weeks, because again, that's just what I was going by the guidance of my doctor. Um, so then it was, I didn't mind working, but I also just really felt that like when you go through years of infertility, you go through IVF. We knew we had other embryos, but we didn't know if it would work. So I was like, I don't know if this is gonna be my only child. So I said, I'm willing to step away from my career in order to watch him grow up. Like this might be my only opportunity. So actually I stepped away from my career from the business, and after we moved, I just stayed at home with him. And it was during that time that my cup was being filled as a mom, but it wasn't being filled. I don't know. It's this weird, maybe you can kind of relate to it, Christine, but just this, yes, everything, you just adore this child, but it's just still just not enough. Like I just felt this calling that like I still was being drawn to the fitness and being able to help other people. And that's when I started to kind of my gears started turning of like, hey, I could maybe do some stuff online. I'm following these other people, like, COVID hadn't happened yet. Or no, it had. We were in the midst of it. So it was, yeah, or, it was March because he was 3 months when we moved. So, yeah, so, it just was like, okay, I think this could work. And when I was getting my CEUs for I'm certified strength and conditioning specialist, that's when I stumbled across the PPA coach because I was like, well, I have a passion for this. I want to learn more about it because I had learned so much in kind of my own journey to get the healing and, fix my core and, realize how, poorly I was truly moving my body as far as like, intra-abdominal pressure and, not all of those things. So, yeah, does that kind of answer your question, I guess?
Oh yeah, yeah. I was just like curious that
Yeah,
timeline.
yeah,
So you're going
yeah,
through all of this. You find out you're pregnant in November of 2020. So
yeah,
your son
yeah.
is
So I
only
found out
what? He's
So my
six
son
months.
is just yeah. So in our clinic where we transfer into our IVF, we have to wait till a live baby is 1 years old. And I actually
Okay.
really appreciate that. I actually did not like that at first. I'm like, again, you're going through infertility and you have this like clock in your head that's going tick, 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 tick. So you just feel like your biological time is running out. But now looking back, I am very glad from like a core and pelvic floor standpoint and just like a woman's standpoint. My clinic is very a big believer in growing your family one baby at a time, and they really want what's best for mom and baby. So they're not going to rush the process. They're not going to give you twins. They're not going to. They don't even let you gender select. They're just one baby at a time, whatever embryo is the best, that's which one we are going to transfer. So I really appreciated about them. So Oliver had just turned 1. We transferred in late November, found out we were pregnant just before Christmas. And we actually did all of that without telling our family. Like we just wanted to have that opportunity. When you go through infertility, your parents know everything. So you're robbed of like surprising your family with a pregnancy announcement. So we did that at Christmas. It was really, really special. They had no clue that we had transferred and were pregnant. So it was in December, I think right before the new year. She was running a sale on the PPA course. And I just looked at my husband and I said, this is a lot of money, but I feel like this is what we need to do. And
I
so I
did that
jumped.
round.
Yeah.
That was the same
Yeah.
round I did. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So I jumped and started taking the course, and oh my gosh, I just loved it. I just ate up all the content. I was just flying through it. I wanted to get through the material as quickly as I could, and I felt coming from being in the fitness space for 12 years that like a lot of the stuff didn't feel like I wanted the core pelvic floor pregnancy adaptations. I didn't need the programming, those sorts of things where like new coaches kind of struggle with like, well, how do I put all this together now? I just needed to add that into what I was already doing or adapt it. So yeah, so I finished the course mid-February, finished the course, passed the test. And this is where, I was telling you in the beginning where it kind of gives me goosebumps. I finished the course on a Friday, took the test, passed it, and we found out on Monday that I had experienced a loss at 16 weeks. He was measuring 16 weeks in 3 days. At the day of my appointment, I was 16 weeks and 3 days on the day of my appointment, but he was always measuring 3 days ahead. So, like your mama gut or your mama intuition almost thinks that like the chapter that I was starting for my business, I'm going to try not to get emotional, was ending a different chapter and I didn't know it. So I am grateful that I didn't carry him for very long without knowing. I have a friend that she carried her baby for 2 weeks without knowing until she went to her 16-week appointment because baby had passed around 14 weeks. And I think that's something that many women don't realize when they go through loss is that, um, you know, when the onset, I mean, I didn't have any symptoms. I walked into the clinic, they couldn't find the heart rate in the room, and I really didn't think anything of it because that happened at 12 weeks too. So we went back to the ultrasound and immediately just on the screen. I mean, if you've ever seen a baby on an ultrasound screen, when things don't look right because that they're kind of moving and doing their thing, especially at 16 weeks. So I am grateful for that. I mean, because that can really haunt some women that they don't know that they can go on for weeks, or they correlate the time of their loss to when their symptoms start experiencing. So when they start cramping, when they start bleeding, maybe their water breaks if they're further along, when ultimately, and I don't mean it morbidly, but your baby probably passed much sooner than that. So like a lot of women, when we talk about the fitness space, a lot of women are maybe in an exercise class and they start bleeding and all of a sudden they have so much blame, so much guilt, so much, why did I do that class? And they blame their fitness or whatever it was they're doing. They picked up their toddler, they walked wrong, whenever it happened, they think that that's when it happens. When the truth is your baby passed much earlier, but your body's now, maybe it was the position you were in, that's where the trapped blood was able to escape them, that sort of thing. So I think that's a big myth that is out there, that like the symptoms correlate to when the time of the loss happened. And that's truly not the case. It's just your body is now realizing and processing that the loss has happened. And now your body, again, it's beautifully, wonderfully made, is now getting ready to prepare for the birth of that baby. So So when that loss happened, we were given two choices. We could either have the DNC or I could choose to vaginally deliver the baby. I chose to vaginally deliver him at the time. We did not know, but we chose to do the vaginal delivery. I come from, my story has endometriosis, polyps. So I'd had a lot of uterine surgeries, abdominal surgeries, IVF is a surgery. So I really didn't want anything else impeding our chances of having future kids. And really, I wanted that closure. Like, at 16 weeks, it's a baby. Like, it's got a spine, and there's just, it's a baby. It's remarkable that they can be so tiny, but so humanesque in their features. So, yeah, so I chose to birth him, and yeah, it was the hardest thing I've ever navigated as a mom.
Yeah, I bet. Did they, so when you went in there for the appointment, I mean, I'm sure, were you by yourself or was your husband with you?
Yep, no, I was by myself. I can vividly remember telling my husband, I'm like, no, you don't need to come. Like, they're just gonna Doppler my stomach. They're gonna measure it. They're gonna check my blood pressure, and I'll come inside and I'll come home. And something that day told me that like something didn't quite feel right, but I was really trying to, when you go through IVF and you finally get or excuse me, infertility IVF, and you finally get a pregnancy, there's a lot of like, gotta just kind of like let go. And I was like, nope, in this moment, I just need to trust my body. Like, I just need to, because usually I would like go and grab, I have my Doppler at home that I would go and grab. And I'm like, nope, I don't have time to do that. I just need to, I just need to trust my body in this moment. Because the last time I heard his heartbeat was at 15 weeks. So we announced at 15 weeks, and I told my husband, I'm like, well, let's just go check. Let me find his heart rate, and then we can tell people. So 15 weeks was the last time I heard his little heart beating. And I don't know what I would have done that morning had I not found it. And maybe I would have just said, okay, he's just in a bad position. But at 16 weeks, I mean, I found all my kids at 11. So, you kind of figure out kind of where they are. But um, yeah, so I was by myself. Um, and I think that's something else that like a lot of women who experience loss are very poorly treated. And we don't need to get into that whole lot unless you want to, but just how when the onset of the loss is discovered and you're told, just there's so much. I mean, I hold so much trauma. I mean, I had to find a different doctor because I mean, my kids still go to that place, but I myself don't have my care there anymore just because of how I was treated. And it wasn't that I was treated poorly, I just wasn't treated right. And in the moment, you just don't realize those things until you like step out. And one, you're treated differently, but two, you have recognition of like, that wasn't right to leave me alone for that long waiting for my husband to come. It wasn't right that I asked for pictures and they told me I could think about it and they didn't hand me any pictures of my child. It wasn't right they left me in the OB's ultrasound space where all these baby pictures are around, So just stuff like that, that it seems very innocent in the moment, but it's just, yeah, it's just, working. I mean, I hired a therapist to work through a lot of it because I wanted to prepare for a pregnancy after loss, but just so much unbottled stuff that I didn't realize in the moment or think to like self-advocate for myself in the moment. But just the education needs to be different, but even just something to be sent home to parents. I mean, like I called my friend who was a bereavement doula and a doula and helped us through our fertility, and she helped me immensely. Just of like, here's what's happening here, just resources and information for moms during that time. I mean, they should be handed a binder just like the mom who goes in for her first appointment and gets all these pregnancy materials. So,
So after that, I mean, I'm sure, like, did you have like questions? Like, how did this happen? I was so, you think you're safe when you're in your second trimester. Like, did you
oh
get
yeah.
answer? Yeah, like, did you get like answers like that? They just like, I don't know. I
Yes.
haven't experienced a loss, so like,
Mhm.
I don't like. For me, I'd be like, how did this happen? Like, I'm 16
Yeah.
weeks. Like,
Yeah.
what happened?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So totally that, like, again, that blissful thinking of like, oh, you're past the 12-week mark. Like, your pregnancy is going to go on forever and ever. Like, I never even crossed my mind. Like, to me, it was like getting past 12 weeks. And then it was like, okay, like now I'm going to have a baby. So yeah, so there definitely was the like, how did this happen? Why did this happen? Like, obviously he was growing great. He was always measuring 3 days ahead. It wasn't like developmentally there was anything, at the time that we could pinpoint. Thankfully, in our case, and like I said, when I got treated differently because we were in IVF pregnancy, and the place that we were at, they did not do. They would do early. I mean, they would do D&Cs, but because I was a late loss, they don't do those at the hospital that I was at. So thankfully, the bigger city, a maternal fetal medicine got back and was like, yep, we'll take her. We want to take a look at her. We deal with IVF moms all the time. Like there's more things that we can see because we just understand the process and whatever. And that was just like, when I say like a breath of fresh air, I mean, immediately we were just embraced, comforted. The ultrasound tech was the sweetest person. She talked us through everything that she was looking at, trying to find, taking pictures, 3D pictures, just so we had those things. And the very first thing that the doctor came in and told us was, because the previous doctor had said, like, you have to have a D&C tonight, you got to get this baby out, all these things. And he looked at me and he said, you don't want to birth this baby right away. This baby's not harming you. So if you need to take a week, take a week. If you want to take 2 weeks, take 2 weeks. If you want to wait until your body starts to deliver this baby, you can wait. Like there is nothing like, if this is a lot, but we don't have to get this baby out today or tomorrow. Like it's it's not causing you any harm. Um, so there was a little bit of testing that we could do, like some blood work and stuff like that, to see if there was like a reason for the cause. And like I said, we chose to deliver him vaginally, not just from like the closure standpoint and avoiding the abdominal surgery, but also just he had mentioned that they would be able to see more. So we would be able to see, was a cord wrapped around the neck? Was there a knot in the cord? Was there, we can look at the placenta. We can just figure some more things out. Because we all know what a D&C is. I don't think I need to go into that, but it's just harder to see what was truly there. Um, so after my birth, I mean, they were able to take a look at stuff, and there still wasn't, any sort of like pinpoint. So the last thing that we decided to do was chromosomal testing, genetic testing, to see if there was anything, because we did not have our embryos tested when we went through this. So we didn't know, like, was there something genetically wrong with him? So getting those results back that genetically he was okay, really gave us a lot of hope for their embryos that they were also okay. And yeah, so there really wasn't anything. It was just a loss. I was on progesterone supplementation and my dosage was decreased right before that. So I don't know if a drop in progesterone is what caused the loss, because I do need supplementation throughout my whole pregnancy. But yeah, it was just a shitty thing that happened to good. I mean,
To
yeah,
good,
I'm a
yeah,
perfect
to
person,
good
but
person.
it's just a
Yeah,
shitty thing that happened. And
that's hard.
unfortunately, that's a lot of pregnancy loss. It's either a shitty thing that happened or it's the chromosomal things that your body recognized in early pregnancy. And,
That's hard because I feel
about
like as
60 to 70% of pregnancy losses are due to chromosomal issues,
yeah, I think that's
So
hard. Like I don't know about for you, but like as a fitness person, you just like you want to know like answers. Like
oh
I don't know,
yes.
like to
Yeah.
get yeah, like to get fitness results, like you have to do A, B, and C. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like to you, you were like I was doing everything right, and like I
Yeah.
didn't get what I wanted. You
Yeah.
know,
But
so like
but
that's
even then,
hard.
like, I had gone through the PPA course at this point. I was newly graduated, but still like those thoughts of like, did I work out too much? Did I do this too much? What did I do? Just sitting there with like not an answer, it's hard. I mean, it can haunt your thoughts sometimes, but again, it was working a lot through with my therapist of realizing that this was just a bad thing that happened. And I don't know the reason of it yet. I mean, I have more clarity on the purpose, not the purpose that I was given it, but I have more clarity on like what I can do with his life, like continue moving it forward. That his life just didn't just end that day. And just who I am as a mom. Um, just like really impacted me. And, I hope that when I'm working with other moms or just through my business that, that they're inspired by our story. And I know they are. I get a lot of messages of like, wow, you're so brave, like you're so courageous. And I have other moms that they say they shared their story because of my story, that, they saw the healing it was bringing me, and they too just found a lot of healing when they finally shared that like they are a mom, because you birthed that baby. I mean, all pregnancies end in birth, no matter what it looked like. So you're a mom, even if you don't physically look like a mom.
So what did I know that like you had just finished, your cert and you were like gonna go a whole new direction with your business, but then this happened. So like how did the loss shape what happened for the next, 3 to 6 months? Like what did that I know there was grieving and all of that,
Yeah.
but like, returning to fitness and everything, like you still were postpartum, so there was still healing
Mhm.
to do, and so talk us through that.
So I'll start with the business. So my business was still just like a flicker in my brain. Like I was really fired up. No one else really knew about it yet. But I was like, this is great. Like I'm pregnant. I can get all this pregnant content. And then my world just got rocked. And like the last thing that I wanted to do was start a business on this. Um, and I knew I needed time. The doctors had told us that, they really recommended us waiting 6 months before we try again, just because I was a later pregnancy. And the body needs healing. I mean, and he said, not just your body, but just emotionally, you need a lot of healing. And I didn't realize how much emotional healing I needed until I started working with a therapist. But just when we became pregnant again, just the emotional roller coaster that pregnancy after losses. I won't get into that, quite yet. But so just from like that standpoint, and what's funny, Christine, is like I think when we go through trauma, it doesn't matter what type of trauma you go through, is that your body has like just this ability to kind of like protect you. And so there's a lot of it that is just really blurry in my brain of like what I did during that time. I can remember, vividly there, I just, like, because your kids trigger you, your husband triggers you, what you see on TV triggers you. And just, my husband one day told me, he's like, you need to go for a walk. You need to just get out of the house for a little bit. And I can remember I didn't walk very far, but I mean, I just screamed. I just, you just don't know what to do with yourself because like for me, it was like, haven't I been through enough already? Like I waited 4, almost 5 years for my first, like that was really hard. And now you just dealt me this. Like, haven't we already been through enough? Like, this isn't fair. This isn't right. Um, so, there was just a lot of like emotional working through. And I did a lot of journaling during that time, just like getting stuff down on paper. But the fitness side of it, like returning again, I don't really remember. I know I took a lot of time off just because this thing that, the connection between the business and fitness was such a burning passion. And now I didn't know what the purpose of it was. And this gym literally got done. Like my husband really pushed to get it done after our loss so that I would have my own space because I was up in a spare bedroom doing my workouts before. So I had this like wonderfully done gym, and I just walked in it and I'm like, I don't know what to do in it. I don't know. I don't know. Somehow I put one foot in front of the other. I know I did a slow return. I know I did, a lot of breathing and like a progression of stuff. But to say I truly knew what I did, I don't. It was so because I wasn't recording anything. Like I can remember breaking down a lot during my fitness. And I think that's something that a lot of women need to realize is that when you do exercise, when you start to exercise, you have endorphins, you have a release of hormones, and some of those can just make you cry out of nowhere, and you don't know where it's coming from, but it's just an emotional response to trauma, and it's normal, it's okay. I know I listened to sad music because happy, pumped up music like didn't it just made me angry, or it just I didn't jive with it, so like I just listened to like slow music when I was working out, and that's okay. Like it just met my emotions where they were at. Sometimes I would just walk away, like if I was in the middle, and it just, again, it's just like a shift, like you hit the wall and you're like, okay, I'm done. Like my body can't do this anymore. So I know there was a lot of that in the early beginning. My brother did get married that May. So that was kind of like, I was getting my first sister, my sister-in-law. I had brothers and married into a family of brothers. So I was getting my first sister-in-law. So that was kind of like a bright point too, and just something to look forward to. But at the same time, it's like I'm supposed to be 20 weeks pregnant. Like I was literally supposed to be 20 weeks pregnant at the wedding. So those thoughts too just kind of cripple into your head. But yeah, I don't know. I just somehow put one foot in front of the other and kept kept going. So
When did you feel like you were coming up from it? I know, I think you told me
yeah,
before I hit record, but like, when did you finally feel like, okay, like, ready, I'm ready to,
yeah,
do the next step and,
it was in the summer because Brianna was offering a business accelerator course, and I just felt like that was like a sign for me that like you still want to do this business. Like you've realized that like you've gone through infertility, you've gone through a pregnancy, you've gone through a pregnancy loss, and two of those three experiences. I mean, all three of them, moms aren't getting supported enough, but two of those three you really realize the gap that there is between what women are told and what women are experiencing and just how women, can get through those chapters. So I kind of took that as my sign to do that. So I took her course, met some, like, again, just coaches I'm still like Katie was one that I really connected with in it. I think Julian was in it as well and connected with her, but just use that as my sign to kind of just start like, okay, I needed some framework to get what was coming in through here, like down on paper. And then it was in August, we were looking to transfer again. And we used, I'm going to try not to be emotional because he was due like August 3rd is when Gabriel was due. So I used his date of his birthday um, to announce the business part of it because, sorry, he was going to be such a pivotal part of my business and just how I was going to run things and view things. So it was just my way to honor his life with what I was doing.
I think that's awesome. And so, what did the beginning of, sorry, I got emotional too. Damn it. Still I know you're pretty early, both,
Yeah.
both postpartum.
Or-
So it's like,
yeah.
leave us alone. Whatever. It's all
Yes.
moms listening to this, so they
Yeah.
get it. Um, what did that early, I know you said you wanted to do you didn't want to go back to in person. You just wanted to do online. So like, how did you leverage, where you live in terms of like a rural area? Did you still network with like local people? Like, what does
Mhm.
that look like? Because I know a lot of us, like, PMPA coaches that have little ones, like, like we want to do some in person, but like we want to do some online too, so that we can, be home with our babies and stuff. So
Yep.
how did you do that at the beginning?
I fortunately had, so when I announced that I was doing the business, my first boss, the first job I had after college, she and I kept a very close relationship. Um, you know, as I, left her, she was so sad I was leaving her. But she reached out and she's like, I want to know more about this. I want to help you with this. She was a fitness director still, at the gym. She's like, I want to help you like propel this. Like this is totally a need. I get all of this. I've experienced this for myself, and I want to help you. So that was really like reassuring and just kind of gave me the landing spot because my big passion is education. It wasn't so much that like I don't enjoy working with people or training people, group X, but it can really really burn you out. And I knew that from being a trainer if you wanted to work in person, you're working when people aren't working. So you're working like early mornings and late nights. And with kids, it's like that's not doable for me anymore. And not only that, the closest gym that has childcare is 45 minutes away. So I'd have to figure out what I'm doing with my kids. My husband, he leaves the home to go to work. So I was really passionate on the education portion because, you know, I'm a big believer in what you do matters, like as far as like a fitness routine and programming, like it matters, but it's not as big of an impact as like how do you perform that squat? How do you perform that deadlift? It doesn't matter when you do it in your programming. I mean, it does a little bit, but like the how is just like so important to me. So I wanted to do a lot of like education and workshops. So I launched my business in January and I hosted my first workshop a few days after. And I was, oh my gosh, I was scooting in my boots, nervous and shaking because like this is the first time I've ever done something like this before. Like I can teach in front of people. I can be a face in front of a people. I can lead a room through fitness, but I've never led a room like as a teacher and doing both. You know, we did some fitness and, you know, some seated presentation work. But so she hired me for, you know, to do the first workshop and it went great. It was kind of like just a great like launching off points. I did do that first few months, I did like a beta programming where like any moms could like join in and they just get the programming from me. So I'm not watching them. I'm not like I recorded video demos of myself, got those uploaded. I put together like I call it the resilient library where there's just like mini learning things in there where moms can go in and learn about core, learn about posture, learn about, you know, the tilt of their pelvis, learn about, you know, just go learn about all these like little things that kind of add up. And it's very DIY. I would get on like once a month and do a call like this with them. But so I just wanted to kind of like get my feet wet and get some input. And that went really well. And then in March, I know kind of launched that as like an official program that I offer. And I honestly, I mean, I didn't get my first client until my first one-on-one client until almost a year into my business. I just kept showing up, pretended I knew what I was doing. But I mean, I felt like, you know, I think we all have to go through that. I mean, we all feel like we're pretend we know what we're doing for a while, but I just kept showing up, kept providing, you know, information. I was doing workshops in person and on, I hadn't gone online yet. I wanted to do, again, I think if you're a new coach starting off, like getting the in reps in person is really, really valuable. I didn't need that as far as like coaching people. I mean, I'd been in the industry for 15, almost 12 years at that point. Like I had seen enough people move. I had worked with enough people from kids. Another part of me is I coached high school and junior high softball from when I graduated high school. So I did like 10 years of that. So that's a whole different coaching. So I mean, I was doing a lot of coaching and just watching people move. So I felt very comfortable going in the online space and being able to look at a video and be able to see how somebody was moving. But it was the education portion that I wanted to do some things in person first before I took it online, just to do some things. So I worked with a Webster certified chiropractor. She let me into her space, kind of collaborated and partnered with her. There was a yoga studio that she had reached out. Where's my head thing? Or my earbud. She had reached out, so I did a workshop, and then I actually did some pregnancy postpartum classes in her space, connected with another chiropractor. So just kind of like doing a little bit of both, but at the same time, like I launched my business in January, and I had my rainbow baby in May. So it was like this constant like I want to grow my business, but yet I can't because now I'm going to go through birth and postpartum. So I really wanted to like honor that because again, you know, not only had I waited for him, but I never expected to have a rainbow baby, and just kind of like honoring the emotions of that pregnancy. So like this is the start of year 3 of my business, but I really only ultimately feel like I'm entering year 2 because I've had 2 babies in that time frame of launching my business. So but then, yeah, slowly meeting other pelvic floor PTs, stumbled across one on a Facebook ad, and I was like, oh my gosh, I did not know there was. I'm in a rural Iowa, and I was like, oh my gosh, I did not know there was one in this little. I don't want to say a podunk town, but just like you know, just a really a small town. I never expected a pelvic floor PT to be at, and reached out to her because I had another client that had reached out and wanted to start working together, and yeah, collaborated with a nutrition coach that I did an internship with in college, and because she now has an online business too. And yeah, it's just networking differently. It's different, but it's good. And I feel like I need to be better at it. I will be very open with that, but it's just hard when you're a mom, like trying to meet up and leave your day when you have your kiddos too. So
Yeah, and how was that first pregnancy after your loss too? And how was that like, because you're kind of just your business is kind of in its infancy, you know.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
and then, you get pregnant. Did you use that I mean, did you use that pregnancy to like make content and like do all the
Yes.
things, or were you
Yes.
fearful?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. No, I wasn't, I knew at that point, like fitness wise, nothing was going to affect the outcome of this pregnancy. At that point, like, I mean, movement has always been my therapy. More times than not, when I look back to like my early days of fitness, I didn't have a great relationship with it. Again, I think a lot of coaches can kind of resonate with that if you come from like an athletic background. Um, but I knew, you know, I mean, there's so much, and I think what helps me is that where I do our IVF, like every single time you go into transfer, they look at you, the doctors and the nurses, and they say, now there is nothing within reasonable reason that is going to affect the outcome of this transfer. So if you want to have intercourse, have intercourse. If you want to exercise, exercise. If you want to take a bath, take a bath. There is nothing that is going to affect, and this is different. This is where there's so much like murky because some doctors are like, don't exercise. It's going to affect your transfer, whatever. My doctors are very, they said there is no research, in our, I was a part of a study with this last pregnancy, as far as like movements, with transfers and the success, of those. I don't think her study has been released yet. I think it's coming out this summer. But I just, I mean, I didn't go bonkers crazy, but I really didn't, nothing really drastically changed because I was kind of I do deload up to my transfers, just kind of watching just like the intensity of movements, not doing as much plyometrics. But I really don't change my loads. I'm not a heavy lifter. I have 50-pound dumbbells is the heaviest I have, and I don't use them very often. I just do a lot of time under tension stuff, but that's very reassuring to me, from my doctors. So, and just in my own experience and research and whatever. So, um, and then, but there is that anxiety. Like you find out you're pregnant, you have the 2-week wait or 10 days that you have to wait, and then you find out you're pregnant. But the long wait is from you find out you're pregnant and then you do your doubling to make sure things are doubling, and then they're hands off until your 7-week ultrasound. So you go about almost 3 weeks of not knowing, if you're pregnant or not, until you have that 7-week ultrasound to, see if there's a heart rate. And my husband and I, we tell people at 7 weeks that we're pregnant. When I experienced the loss, I was like, nope, no way. I'm not ever telling people ever again. Like I had to tell people and untell people. That was awful. Like I never want to do that again. But then my mind really changed and how women are treated, that I said, you know what? I felt a lot of guilt that we never really celebrated his life. Like, obviously, we were excited, got to celebrate with family, but we didn't tell people till 15 weeks. And we don't know why. COVID was happening and we weren't seeing people. And we're like, it was literally that Friday. My husband came home from work. And I'm like, you know what? We should probably tell people like that we are pregnant. I am starting to show a little bit more. He's like, okay, that's fine. And so, we felt like truly we only got to share his life with other people for 10 days. Um, but I mean, his life was, I mean, because we gave a little bit of time after we had the delivery before it was almost a week after he was born before we told the world, um, that he was gone. But my heart really changed as I, listened to different podcasts and just read different women's experience working with my therapist of like, you know what? This isn't right. This isn't right that so many women go back to work, that have these deadlines that they have to do. They have to manage their homes and they're grieving and they're bleeding and they're postpartum, and nobody knows about it. Like that just didn't sit well with me. And I was like, you know what? If something were to happen, I want the prayer, the loves, just encouragement if we are pregnant, like praying for my baby. But if we're not, I still need those things. I still need my community to help me get through this. Like, I don't want to do this alone. So when we saw the heartbeat, I turned to my husband. I'm like, are we okay sharing? Like, we talked about it. And he said, yeah, like if that's what you feel is best. He said, this is a we thing, but it's definitely more of a you thing. Um, So yeah, so we've announced our pregnancy at 7 weeks, with both of the boys since Gabriel's passing. And I always share that as part of the announcement of like why. We're not doing this for like rubbing in people's faces, but it's more like pregnancy should be celebrated. It doesn't matter if it lasts a couple of days or it lasts a few weeks or a few months, but pregnancy it should be a celebration of this child. And unfortunately, 1 in 4 women, some statistics say 1 in 3 pregnancies end in loss. That's a lot of loss, and that's a lot of moms suffering in silence and just navigating those trenches, with another kids or kids running around, and you just don't want to tend to them, or you just, however, every woman goes through it differently, but just not supported. Maybe a friend or their mom knows, but that's it. Like your tribe. I mean, sometimes your boss doesn't know, and now your boss is mad at you because you're not acting like yourself or being yourself, and you don't. Some women just keep it all to themselves because there's so much. I don't know what the word is. Is it shame? Is it, that I failed when, truly she didn't? I mean, ultimately, there's so much, especially early pregnancy loss ends in chromosomal or because of chromosomal issues, that there was nothing that could have been done. So, um, yeah, so that's why we share. That's why we share early, and I really just try and live without fear. That's the big thing in pregnancy after loss because there's just a lot of fear.
Yeah, a lot of me was like nodding my head with you because I don't know what it is, but as I'm just finding out now as an adult that I had, several aunts and some cousins that dealt with miscarriage, and it's like, why is that such a silent thing? Like, why is that such a silent thing? Like, I get it. There's some people that are more private with their life and
Mhm.
don't share on social media, as much as I do. And the reason why I do is because I want to help other people. I don't do it for my own
Yes.
personal gain.
No. No.
Like,
Same here. Yeah.
do you think I like talking about prolapse every day? No, but I can't tell you the amount of people coming to me in my DMs from different states, from different countries that are like, yes, I'm going through this. Like, how did you do it? You know what I'm saying? That's
Yep.
why we share.
Yep.
It's not for us, it's because we
Yep.
want other women to know, like, you're not alone. You can make it
Mhm.
through this, right? You're strong enough. And like,
Yep.
I've done it, so let
Yep.
me show you how. So, talk to us about how, like, now this has really, like, I mean, this is like you really honor your son in how you do business because I know
Mhm.
you help moms with this now. So, like, what does your business look like
Yep.
now? And, like, what do you want it to look like in the future?
Yeah. So, I kind of feel like I try to carry like different pillars. So, like, I have a pillar that, I like to keep a pillar for like infertility because to me, in my business model or my mindset, if you have a heart to be a mom, you're a mom. Like, if you're actively trying, you're a mom. Like, if you don't have that physical baby and maybe you haven't even experienced the conception, you're still a mom. Because, like, that's what I felt for those 4 years. I'm like, I feel like I'm a mom. Like, if I have this burning desire. So, try to hold that pillar, just try to hold a pillar for just like core education because that to me is like a big pillar. And then pregnancy after loss because um, pregnancy after loss, yes, when we come from the PPA, we say, yes, there's exercises that are appropriate I say appropriate for your pregnancy because what might be appropriate for my pregnancy might not be appropriate for your pregnancy, or what's appropriate in my stage of pregnancy might not be appropriate when you hit, let's say, 16 weeks gestation. Like we all have different ways that we carry our babies and our genetics and everything. So when you go through pregnancy after loss, we have, yes, the physical appropriateness of fitness, but there's also the emotional. Because again, like I said in the beginning, so many moms correlate their loss to movement. And there's a big hurdle of like, that doesn't feel safe to me. So you have not only those trenches of like movement, but just also just, I have a client that messaged me today. She has her 20-week ultrasound today. And, this is her I say second pregnancy after loss. We actually went through a loss at the same time. That's how we connected. We found each other through a Facebook group. We both experienced a loss of 16 weeks. And she had her rainbow baby, and now she's pregnant again. And, she just said, I've been so busy this week that it's just hitting me right now how nervous I am to go into this 20-week anatomy scan. Like most parents would be thrilled to be going into an ultrasound and seeing their baby. But for pregnancy after loss, there's every time you're going to a doctor's appointment, just intrusive thoughts like, is the hatchet has come down on you before? Like, is it going to come down on me again? Like, you just, I like to describe it as like you're pretty much holding your breath throughout the entire pregnancy. Like, you get little exhales, like if something good at the appointment happens, but then your brain just like goes to the next thing. Like, you know, we have this appointment coming up, or like this check, and what if this check doesn't come back good? Or maybe you do get, like, I have another client, she experienced a loss at 28, 29 weeks. So as she was getting closer to that date, just there was some milestones or like some test results that were kind of abnormal before there, and just, you know, she was still feeling her baby move so much, but still just like, what if this is the time that like something is like really wrong with this baby, and now it's going to be. So it's just a constant mind game, of just navigating those emotions on top of like maybe your movement doesn't feel safe to you. So that's something that like is very individualized for each person. So like for me, what was really helpful was just like a lot of mantras, just like, self-talk to myself. I was still journaling, I have a journal for each kid. So I kind of like write to that child, just kind of like getting my thoughts and fears out. If we have a name picked out, I'm putting the name down, just to like make the baby feel more tangible, more real. But just supporting moms through, here's things that you can do at your doctor's office. Here's things you can ask for. Like, just really trying to encourage moms that self-advocacy is your strongest tool when you're going through pregnancy after loss. The client that messaged me this morning, I said, just validating her feelings that, yes, this is going to be hard today. I totally, you're very valid in all your feelings, and, whatever happens today, you're going to be okay. Like, we've gone through some hard things together before, like we will get through this. Just reminded her that she could, ask her ultrasound tech to talk to her, because sometimes you go into those scans and the ultrasound techs don't say anything, and that can be really, you're trying to decipher what's happening on the screen. I had that with with our Rainbow Mason. They wanted to check his heart, and I didn't know why I was having that. Like, I thought something was wrong with his heart, and I just broke down on the ultrasound. Like, she just stopped and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I couldn't even talk. My husband had to say like how nervous I was. And then, she gave us a moment, and then she came back in with the doctor, and they apologized that they didn't explain to me that this was just a routine thing, that there was nothing wrong with his heart. It was just a routine thing. But that heart was really triggering to me, because on Gabriel, it was the heart that stopped beating. So the heart, anytime I see it on the ultrasound, is very triggering. Just, is it moving? Is it doing what it's supposed to? So when we're just looking at the heart, like the whole screen is just the heart, it was just like, it was a lot. So just different things that, stuff that women can, do, or just remind them how they can advocate towards themselves, test results that they could be asking for. I do work with a local pregnancy and infant loss group. I put together a guide. It's called Gabriel's Guide. It's a free guide that's got information on like emotional healing, physical healing. It has a program in it for like a return to exercise when you're ready, what you can expect physically, what you can expect emotionally, what does life after loss look like? And I just kind of poured my heart into it, just things that helped me. And I just make that, it's completely free. It's available to, moms that experience loss. So that's within their care kits that they do, and just trying to give back where I can, as far as moms who have experienced loss, because they just need support in that chapter. But I know most of them want to go on to have another pregnancy, and just supporting them in that, because it's just a whole nother hurdle, when you go on to try again. It's scary. It's very scary.
Well, I think that it is very brave, and you're very strong. And I think that, that's what's so cool about P and PA is that we kind of take our own individual experiences, and then like part of our business gets molded by that,
Yeah.
you know? Like
Yeah.
I have not experienced loss, but I had a fit pregnancy and a horrendous postpartum, and
Mhm.
I knew because of PMPA that like just because I was fit doesn't mean I was guaranteed a specific outcome, right? Like I knew that, and it was still hard for me. You know what I'm saying? So it was
Yep.
like just like you had just learned that exercise doesn't cause a miscarriage, and you were still questioning that, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's so great that that's an offering of yours, because women need that. Like even when I was going through my, with prolapse and everything, like I still leaned on a couple coaches in our group, because like I wanted somebody to talk to that had experienced it, like because I'm like, I know it's like I know what to do, but I also like I just want support,
Yeah.
like while I'm going through this. And I think that's amazing that that's one of the pillars of your business, because I think it's so needed and it's not talked about, and now moms can find you. And honestly, the way you show up on social media, like I feel like you've been doing this for 10 years, honestly. Like I had no idea that you were so like
Well, thank you.
new. Like
Yeah. Thank
honestly,
you.
like
Thank
you
you.
just really, I mean, you have like such a confidence about yourself, and the way you explain things, you could tell that like you've been doing this a long time. Like you're not like, right, like
Yeah.
you and I both, like I've been in the fitness industry for 14 years, but
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yep. I remember you
but
mentioning it.
yeah, but P&PA specifically just for the past like 2 to 3,
Yeah. Yep.
so where can moms find you?
So I pretty much live on Instagram is my favorite place to hang out. I do have Facebook and they are the same handle. So it's at resilient.mama.fitness. So they can find me in both avenues there. But like I said, I do primarily hang out on Instagram. It's a big pet peeve of mine that Facebook and Instagram are the same thing, but like they're so drastically different. And a good different in a good way from like the user experience, but like from the business standpoint, like I don't know if you have Facebook for business, but it is garbage. It is so hard to navigate. Like it's just not like stuff gets lost all the time. And I am on Facebook because I have a lot of local, I have a lot of local people that follow me through there. But and I do have my personal page as well, but it's just yeah, I like the features that Instagram has. It's much more user friendly from a I don't know, from the experience standpoint, I feel like both are the same, but from the business on the back end side of how you're putting content. So,
Yeah,
but
agree.
yeah, otherwise, I got my webpage. That's resilientmamafitness.com. Is where I offer, my services. Gabriel's guide is out there as well that they can download. Um, I have a newsletter. It goes out 2 times a month. They want to hop on that. They can find me there. Just use that to dive deeper into what I teach on my pages as far as social media. So.
Amazing. Well, moms, if you are navigating life after loss, whether that's returning to fitness or maybe you're in a pregnancy after loss, Ashton would be a amazing resource for you. So I will put her information in the show notes, so that if you have questions or you want to talk to her, that you can connect. So Ashton, thank you so much for being here today.
Yes, thanks for having me, Christine.